It's Julia Renee.
And Kendall Aaliyah. Welcome back to the Know Your Power podcast. Welcome back.
What's up?
How's it going?
We got so many questions.
We have a lot of questions to go over today.
They're really good, though. They're like little, I think they're all something that people can learn about. Whether it's like little nitpicky things about being behind the scenes at a show day or like prep. They're really interesting. So you guys sent in really good questions.
Well, that's like, I think it was over a month ago now, just a normal like Q&A episode we did. Someone asked about like, how do you pee on show day? And it's like, those are the questions like as a beginner I wanted to ask, but had no one to ask. So I'm glad we can be the big sisters of bodybuilding and answer it for everyone.
Honestly, I love that name. But first you have to open your Prezi.
Wait, no. It's funny because I was like, weird of her to leave this here.
It's
so
not
unlike
you have to open your Prezi.
Wait, I'm excited. What is it? And what's it for? Is it jewelry?
It's like your startup prep present.
You're so sweet. Oh, that's sick. Wait, that's so cool. YouTube won't be able to see because I'm so far away, but it's like a snake. Is it a necklace? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's so cool.
And it's like a adjustable choker.
Yeah, so no, it's like my style of chain. Should I put it on?
And it doesn't tarnish with training or anything.
Oh my God, you're so sweet. Thank you.
There's also, you can take it off and get another charm. And there's a one that I wanted to get you too. And it's just like a black, like onyx. And it's in the shape of like a teardrop. And it looks so cool.
I'm really bad at putting.
For you guys that are listening, it's like a silver chain that's a choker, but it has like a snake on it too.
I love it so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I give you a hug?
Yeah. At least
I'm really
for now.
bad at putting jewelry on myself. Oh my God, you're so sweet. Thank you. And it has a cool little card under here. Hold on.
Oh yeah, there's each.
Is it like the meaning?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the snake shedding the past. I'm obsessed. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's kind of what you're doing with this prep, in a way.
Yeah, I'm almost like I'm treating it so that I titled my YouTube series the Comeback Series.
Yeah.
Because I almost want to like reclaim it in a way, if that makes sense.
I watched your first video. It was so good. I'm so excited for you to be the one to do this now.
I'm shocked. Well, we better do it together.
I know. I'll be coming up right behind you.
Good. I don't know why I'm shocked, but I'm shocked at the amount of support where I was literally like, the first place I announced it was this podcast, and I refused to click on the comments for like 5 days. Like I just got really nervous that people were just gonna say something bad. I don't know why. But I think that's like a testament of me being in my head about this whole decision. And then I shared it on my Instagram broadcast. People were really nice there. And then I posted it on Instagram and YouTube on the same day. And like overwhelming amount of support is so nice and cool. So thank you guys for being nice to me.
I don't know why you thought it would be anything else.
I don't know why either, because okay.
Well, it was a heavy decision for you to make, so it makes sense that you would give it thought.
Like, you know how I am. When I make big decisions, I hide it from everyone until I'm like, hey, I did this thing, or like, oh, I'm like 1 week from doing this thing. So that's kind of what I did, is I was talking about it with like my brother for months and like trying to make a decision what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. And then I finally felt comfortable enough to like share it, but I'm still protective of it a little bit. Like as someone who's competed in wellness before, but not a lot of my followers, especially on Instagram, know that. So they're like, are you sure you're going wellness? And I'm like, this isn't my first time, you guys. Like, I wish I could say that.
That's true, because if you think about it, like when you actually started getting into social media, it was after it was during that break. It's been 4 years you figured out? It was 4 years?
It was like actually right in my off season from that show is when I started posting a lot more, because I felt like I had more time in my day because I wasn't in prep for like the first time in a long time. So yeah, that's when I gained the most
and they don't really
followers.
Know
that's when we started this. Like I haven't competed in front of social media before, really.
Yeah, and all the new followers don't know competing Kendall.
Yeah. And I've deleted or like archived a lot of my old stuff too, so they can't even go back and see it. So I shared some old prep files on my story the other day, and that was really fun for me to like dig up and go through, and it's motivating.
It's honestly so crazy, like seeing how just different you looked. Like you just look like a little baby. That's how I feel when I share my first couple of like shows, even just like, of course, like my lips are like double, triple the size
that
now.
Too.
You know, I've like, I do my makeup completely different. Like my muscles look differently.
Yeah.
It's just, so when I was looking at them, I was like, I can't even remember. Because me and you were at that show together.
I feel that about you too, though, because some of the photos I had to go through were us.
Yeah, I can't.
And I'm like, we also weren't that close back then, where our friendship was like starting and only lived in the gym.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever hung out outside of the gym at that point. And I was like, oh, they didn't know they were going to be best friends and have a podcast someday.
It's so weird.
It is weird. It's weird to look back on, and so unrelated. Last thing I'm going to say. I've gotten obsessed with Gilmore Girls. Like,
I know.
Literally
well,
obsessed.
I'm on your
I forgot
Hulu.
we share Hulu because I was like, who's watching Friends?
And I went, who's watching Gilmore Girls? I was like, I didn't know that Kendall likes Gilmore Girls.
I'm obsessed, and it's trippy.
And I get to see what seasons that you're on. And I'm like, oh, she's already had season 4.
In like a week. Like I've been watching it when I'm driving, I'm listening to it like it's a problem. Anyway, the same trippy outness where like, it was filmed 25 years ago. So I'm like, oh, a lot of these people don't know they're in like this movie in 2024.
Yes.
Like I get so like, I don't know, nostalgic about that. But it just reminded me because I'm like, it's crazy looking at past people or past events and being like, they don't know what's going to happen to them.
That's really
in a good
true.
way.
Oh, what is the show? Oh, it was Friends, obviously, because that's what I'm watching. But there's this like point where they look back at old footage of Ross and Rachel before she got pregnant with his baby. Sorry, huge spoiler. If you
I was like, I've never seen it, so I didn't even know that was the thing.
It's been years. But Phoebe looks at the video and looks at Rachel and goes, "You're about to get pregnant," because she doesn't know in that video.
Yeah, see, that's cute. That's how I feel about prep Kendall. Anyway, that had nothing to do with what we're talking about today. We're first going to go over, if I'm correct, Tyler Manion's video on why Eduarda was picked over Issa at the most recent Arnold show.
Yes. I mean, I was like waiting for this video to come out, and I was thinking if it comes out before we post the Arnold recap YouTube and podcast audio,
you got it.
Patio. I will see if we can like squeeze it in into the episode, but it didn't. They have so much like backed up footage. But it was a really interesting video to watch. First of all, it was super short. So if you guys didn't see it, it'll be up on our stories when this video or this episode comes out. But basically how they do it, it's kind of like who wins each pose.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Like I knew that, but I didn't really stop to think of being like, oh, okay, they're breaking it down even further. Being like, okay, there's this many poses. Who wins each thing?
I feel like I didn't know that until they did the Olympia recap, and I was like, that does make sense because when it is that close of a race, it has to come down to something like that, like being so specific as to like, if you're just better at one pose, you might take the title, you know?
Exactly. And Eduarda was like, from what they said, better at almost all of them.
Yeah.
Like, so if we broke it down from the video with the front pose, you know, this is something that we were saying in our last video, that Eduarda just has the better hourglass shape from the front. And one thing that Tyler Manion like kept saying that it didn't bother me. That's not the right word. It was more, he kept saying Issa needs more of a quote unquote natural hourglass shape. Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, is that something that she can build on?
Yeah. Like, because is that even possible?
Is that possible? Like, that's where my mind went. Or is it a genetic, what's the word? No, genetic, like,
disposition?
Maybe. That's a good word.
Okay, thanks.
Someone got their word of the day toilet paper today.
Spelling bee.
That's what my mind went to. I'm like, is this even genetic? If Eduarda and Fran come in looking 100% is this even something that she can change? Because if we think about what is creating more of an hourglass shape in Fran, in Eduarda, it's about their shoulder distance from shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
That's creating more of
and
that.
hip ratio.
That's true. Well,
and both of them, I feel like
but they're all Brazilian too.
I think if all three of them though were standing, like not posing, just like standing straight up, I do think Fran and Eduarda have actual more shape to their abdomen, while Issa is a little more rectangular.
Okay.
And like if that's the case, like if that's what's creating that like even more dramatic, like going from that shoulder distance into a really narrow waist, like then it is impossible to change your genetics.
Wondering, because there are some things, and Kendall and I were talking about this before we started filming, but when we see, like there are certain wellness competitors that you have honestly seen not step on stage, and they, for reasons like this, where they have an incredible physique, there's no doubt about it, they have the muscle, but genetically aren't built for that ideal hourglass shape, whether it's they can't bring their waist in because maybe it's just naturally a little bit wider, or their rib cage looks a little bit wider, or they carry more muscle in the upper body. So this is where we're getting to the point where genetics is like playing a huge role in it. It's like, is this something that she can actually fix?
Yeah.
Which would it mean that she would need to like make her back a little bit wider and shoulder caps maybe add a couple of inches just on the cap? Like, would that work?
That would definitely add to the hourglassness. So I think so, but like there is
lower
still
body already. It's there.
Yeah. I think it truly did come down like mostly to the upper body, and shouldered width was just drastically different between the two of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that, Eduardo won that first front pose. So then they do quarter turn to the right, and we're hitting that first side pose. And it's one thing that I don't know if we mentioned this on the last episode when we recapped the Arnold, about her vacuuming. It's funny because when I watched her doing it on stage, in my head I went, don't do that, don't do that.
She doesn't need to do that. Like when I'm hitting some poses, I'm needing to vacuum, because like if not, my waist is not naturally that tiny, so it's how I have to pose. Sometimes it depends on the pose, but side pose, especially on my right side, like I tend to vacuum a little bit more. But like she has the tiniest waist in the world. It's like when you vacuum, I do agree. I think was this Tyler Manion's words who said it was quote unquote distracting.
It's distracting that she was doing that. And typically they don't want to like see your ribs, and when you do a vacuum, it does have that effect. So that was good to know that like, you can, I practice vacuums like in my off season so that I can, and on season, so I can have better control when I do get on stage. But doing it on stage, if you're lean enough, I don't think is necessary.
Yeah, you don't want to see your rib cage. And they said it was just
kind of, a little distracting. They did say something about Issa's foot on this side, and I couldn't really understand quite what he meant. He said her foot needs to be more at an angle instead of parallel. So I'm thinking maybe instead of having both of her feet facing that side for the first side pose, that maybe that back foot was going to be turned out or in a little bit more.
I think I've definitely seen this. I didn't really identify it in Issa's posing, but I've seen it in other competitors, especially at a more like novice level, because I think it's more apparent, where you're almost trying to give too much glute and hamstring that it actually like kind of takes away from the lines you have. The same way if you push too hard on a back pose, it all kind of like flattens. I've seen people push a little too hard and twist a little too hard on their side pose, and it has the same effect where like her quads are so like well proportioned that I think if she angled a little bit more to show more quad, it would have given a better overall leg shape on that side, like on that left leg. I didn't really see it a lot with her, but like I've definitely seen that before, so I get what he's saying.
I thought maybe too, because everyone does their side pose like slightly different with the foot placement that I have seen, and this is like where it goes into your body and how it works and like what you're trying to accentuate or where you're lacking. So I was thinking, is he telling her that she needs to either like turn in that foot a little bit more? I wish there was like a circle and he would point to it, because I'm like, I need more detail.
I get what
I
you're
need
saying.
all the detail.
I'm assuming it's turned out a little more to show a little more quad towards judges.
Ooh, yeah, maybe
That's
you're right.
my assumption.
Yeah, because when you're in that side pose, of course, like that first, the glute that's the closest to the judges or the camera, that's the one, that they're looking at right there. But it's not just that. They're also looking at that back leg.
Yeah,
Because
that's true.
you can make that back leg. One thing that I do with that back leg is I dig my toe into the ground. And when I do that, it'll bring that quad up.
Yeah.
And make it look
And it
more
flexes the
proportionate.
calf a little more to give more shape in like the lower portion
Yes.
too. Agreed.
So Eduardo won that one as well. And then they moved to the back pose, and it says that they both had the amount of muscle that they needed. And it was very apparent that they were pretty balanced, I would say, here. And I think Eduarda made improvements in her back pose since coming from the Olympia. But they did say that Issa didn't have the same level of like pop that she did in her muscles. And for me, this is where I was getting confused because I was like, okay, are we talking about muscle fullness? Because I think that's what he was trying to say. Or was it more so leanness? Because he did kind of go back and forth between saying like lean and pop, which is more shredded, or does she need to have a better fill up with carbs?
That's a good point. I feel like just looking at the two of them, Eduarda's tie-in was just like a little more drastic. Not that it was like that much leaner, but I feel like maybe that's where he could be looking, where like the way her glutes tie into her hamstring was like, it's like its own layer, while Issa's kind of like melds into each other.
Okay,
if that makes
I
sense.
can see that.
Again, these are my assumptions and my takes on what he was saying.
Yeah, I also, it's just, Jesus, my eyeballs can't handle it. They just like look so good. Issa's Eduarda's calves are way bigger than Issa's, which is what I'm noticing.
I bet you the Wellness Observer has already made
He's got
that.
something to say about the calves.
That man loves calves.
Oh, he does. So that pose went to Eduarda too, and they're judging the walk to the back of the stage almost as its own pose. So this is something that I teach my posing clients, because when you do that walk to the back of the stage, you want to almost move even slower and more methodically, because the harder that you kind of bop, 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 like stamp your foot into the ground, the more
jiggle.
likelihood you see the jiggle if you are holding on to fat still, which you shouldn't be, or you're holding on to water, which you shouldn't be. But they said that Eduarda's glutes just kept the fullness within the walk, which I was trying to make sense of it, but what I came up with was, okay, so when you walk, like one of your glutes is going to show more than the other one.
Yeah.
And it would make sense to, I guess, have them not flatten out when you're walking.
Yeah. It's such a funny concept that they're like,
Yeah.
her glute was fuller while she walked away from us. It's like kind of funny. I
Yes,
don't know.
this is why I'm like, I love getting so granular on these things.
Watching them
Being like,
next
"But what
to
do
each
you mean
other,
by that?"
watching them both walk though, what you're saying, Issa walks faster. So that might have
Exactly.
something to do with it as well, where like maybe it flattened out more or like moved a little more because she was doing a little more of a
That's
stomp.
true. Yeah, Eduarda does walk like a lot slower. And this is something we talked about last time, where I also didn't like that in this video. Sometimes he was talking about things and what he was talking about wasn't what was on screen. And it really confused me. I was like, you're talking about the side pose, but I don't see no side pose. I don't think they had the footage or something.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know.
not.
But yeah, that was really interesting. That one went to Eduarda, I think, because of how her glutes were looking when she was walking.
Yeah.
So that matters. Make sure you keep that in mind. And then the side pose, the second one, this one is Issa's stronger one. It went to Issa. So that is basically 4-1, like four poses. They said Eduarda was better than one for Issa.
It is interesting.
Yeah, and they also said Eduarda on that last pose didn't need to cover her shoulders with her hair. And Issa needs more of the natural hourglass shape. I really do wonder I wish I could talk to her. I wish I could sit down and say, okay,
What's your plan?
What's your game plan
Yeah.
for this?
I bet you it is just to bring her upper body up a little, because she is one of those people that's like so lower body dominant and clearly can put on muscle looking at her lower body.
Like that's there.
Yeah. So I think it is just bringing that size up. And I wonder if she does, like how different she'll look, because she's always been that like extreme lower body dominance type of competitor.
Exactly.
It'd be kind of sick to see her like build up her lats, build up those delts.
I'm also wondering, I'm like, okay, if she did bring up her lats, like, and this is like, you have to be like so careful with this because it could, depending on your lats, there's high lat insertions and there's low lat insertions. This is also something that you see like in the men's physique and men's classic physique categories, is genetically having a higher one can be actually a disservice to them because there's less room for it to get bigger versus the lower ones. You have much more space to fill. God, it's so crazy.
I was trying to analyze
what is life?
What lat insertion Issa has, but I can't really tell.
Yeah, so
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. This is, however, selfishly making me happy because I believe I have a similar shape to both of them.
Yeah.
As far as up the hourglass with the upper body.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to put like me in the middle, and I'm going to put Issa or Eduarda and Fran on the sides, and I'm going to do a comparison and see where I need to like.
Well, I was like,
adjust.
that'll help you and every other pro recognize where they might need to improve or change how they train or how they come in, because it does help having like, they're all very similar, and that's why like this is very meticulous in the judging, but it does help, like we finally have more than one person that's the standard, which does help you understand like, okay, how could I fit into this? Because like what I was saying last week, like I never had an example of a tall wellness girly besides Angela, who is so dense.
And how tall is Elisa? She's
taller
right?
too. Yeah. So it's cool seeing like a top, even the top 5, just having different physiques up there. And then like everyone has their own role model to pick and like what to look up to. And obviously like Eduarda, Fran, and Issa are all the main standards now.
So it's cool. It is really cool to see. We have I think that Issa is most likely what, 5'2", 5'3"?
Yeah, I think so.
I know for sure Fran is 5'3" because
and I know for sure
Fran messaged me that she was 5'3".
Eduarda is 5'6" or 5'5".
Eduarda's 5'6". Elisa's even taller, so she's more like probably
5'7".
your height, which is that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting, guys. We'll have the video linked on the podcast page. Make sure that you follow the podcast page.
I love that they're making those now too, because like as fans of the sport, it is hard sometimes to understand why they picked who they picked. So it's cool like hearing their actual like thoughts and feedback, even if it is hard to explain between two women like this, where it's like they both look so good.
I know.
But like going into 4th and 5th place and like hearing why they placed 4th and 5th, like it's all very interesting to me.
Yeah.
I like it.
It makes it better for us, so that we get more knowledge about what they're actually looking for.
Yeah.
And because I think for a period, I mean, you guys know I don't really train any targeted upper body anymore. I'm just like maintaining what I have. But there was a point where I had like a fear because I was seeing a huge shift in the wellness division where their upper body was getting like drastically smaller.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, well, we have 2 girls that have this kind of hourglass shape, which is probably because of their cap shoulders, maybe a little bit wider of a back.
Yeah.
And then it still goes into a really tiny waist. So I'm like, okay, you're fine. Like, you're fine.
It's okay to have
It's
muscle.
okay. But yeah, let's go into some of the questions for today.
Okay.
Let's see. The first one.
I can start. I feel like you've had to talk a lot, so I feel bad.
You want me to start because the second one is longer.
I don't mind.
Yeah, just kidding.
I'm
There is one
honestly
in
facing
here.
my fears.
There is one in here that literally says, "Sorry, this is long." Sorry, Kendall.
No, it's okay.
It's really
The first one says, hi, beautiful ladies. Hello. I just wanted to start by saying I'm grateful for the work you do. You have been amazing company during Stairmaster sessions and are a huge inspiration for me in the sport and in life. You're so sweet. 2025 will be the year of my debut, and the Blueprint series has been super helpful. I have a couple of questions about show day. I imagine it's very difficult from show to show, but could you please explain how most IFBB's shows are organized / what is the sequence of the show? As in like comparison rounds, routine, call outs, like what's the order of operations? Also, how does the posing vary on the comparison rounds and the routine? Active regards, which is such like a sophisticated sign off.
Madame.
Per my last email. You're so unserious.
You're so cute. We love you. Thank you so much for writing in. First of all, congrats. It sounds like you're an IFBB pro. Holy moly. So this is exactly how I felt on my pro debut. My pro debut did not go according to plan whatsoever. Okay. First of all, that was the first time Zach and I broke up.
You were going through a lot.
I was going through it.
That show.
I switched coaches mid prep because Zach was like, your body is stalling. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I was late to getting on stage. So
triple whammy right there.
I was very nervous. I was like, how do they run things? So now after doing a couple, I kind of get the swing of things. So with comparison rounds versus the routines. So what'll typically happen is the night before they'll do like a, athlete meeting thing, and you go and you get your number and you get to see all the girls that you're competing with. Then the next day, usually they have times in which each category, they usually don't have times. Even when you're at the pro level, they usually never do times.
Yeah.
It's just, this is the order in which they're doing the show with the different categories. But I've had it done one time, I believe, when we did routines first, but I would say 90% of the time, comparisons is first.
Yeah.
So you'll be going on the back of the stage with your class, all of the girls. It doesn't matter at this point when you're an IFBB pro what your height is. So when you're an amateur, they separate you into class A, B, C, D based on your height. For this, don't matter. So you're going to be standing 5'2" girls standing next to 6' girls. It's insane. So you all just walk on, you do your comparison round. So this is your quarter turns. So exactly those poses we just went over when we talked about Eduarda and Isa. You will all walk on, do your front poses. They say quarter turn to the right, and you keep moving like a clock that's going to the right. You will do that. They'll probably move you guys around a little bit. And when they're moving you around, they're placing you. Ideally, you want to be the first 5, 6 that's called out. That's called first call outs. That means you're most likely in the top 5 or 6. So very similar to how an amateur would do it, except all the heights are compared in the same group.
Yeah.
Then you walk off stage and you come all the way around the stage. You come back, and that's when you come on stage in order of your number that you have to do your routine.
Yeah.
Now, when you're an IFBB pro, you have a longer routine. When you're an amateur, it could be anywhere. I've heard different things. I've heard anywhere from 15 seconds to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they kick you off at around 15 seconds.
Once they're announcing like the next person,
that means get off.
Yeah, that means like, okay, time to walk off stage.
So when you're a pro, you can now do the T-walk. So when you're an amateur, what they want you to do, you go from backstage straight to the front of the stage.
You're kind of walking out on like an angle.
Yeah. And they just want you to do your routine in that 15 seconds. Versus when you're a pro, you can go to the back of the stage, making a straight line. You can stop there, do a pose, walk forward. I would say this is anywhere from, I'd say around 45 seconds. That's what you want to aim for. And you can kind of walk up and down stage. You don't want to go like side to side, but you can do a T-walk. Like just imagine what a T would look like. You can move in that space. So that's typically how it goes. And then what we have been seeing a lot after the morning show is when you come back for finals, they will do a, what's it called? Like the word, when they kind of double check what they thought.
I get what you're saying. I don't know what word you're looking for.
Word. They used it at the Arnolds, like
Okay.
Not a comparison. It's like a confirmation round. Yes, they'll do a confirmation round where they'll bring back out the top 6 and double check to make sure that you guys are in the right placing.
That's why it's important also to hold your conditioning as long as you can that day.
It is.
You don't want to go in between like prejudging and finals and go have like your fun cheat meal. You want to hold it until after finals. Because
we've seen it change, and that's what happened at my show. I actually got moved up a place because I came back looking still good.
Yeah.
I was 7th position, and then I got moved up to 6th at the second Reno show above Juju B-Fit.
Oh, yeah.
Which was insane because I had been following her before I even started bodybuilding. And I was like, I cannot believe that they just put me above her.
Yeah.
Like, that is insane. I was like, oh, you... She was,
I'm so sorry.
And she was so sweet.
Yeah.
She was so nice.
She's got crazy
So it really
legs.
does matter. So that's kind of how it'll run. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you did it right. I was just going to add that it does vary show to show, where I've definitely had shows where I do my individual routine first and then like straight to call outs. I think it depends on size of show too, where if it is, you have to consider if it's a huge show, they need to get some comparisons first, because I feel like they're already making note of like who is the potential like top 10.
Who do I want to look out for when they come back for their routine?
Yeah. So, but I've definitely been to smaller shows where like that would almost be a waste of time. If there's only 5 of us, we might as well go straight to our routine. It doesn't hurt. And it is different between NPC and IFBB. Once you are a pro, I'm sure it is more like structured, because all of those shows are a certain size and a certain amount of competitors. But I was going to say, like, it doesn't hurt the night before to ask. Like, it doesn't hurt to ask, like, hey, do you know the run of show to some of the officials? And they might be able to help you out of like, oh yeah, we're doing comparisons and then routine and then call outs or whatever the sequence that they have.
That's usually what'll happen for that athlete meeting the night before is they'll kind of go over the run of show and how they're going to do it. At my second show in Reno, they changed it up the night before.
Oh, wow.
So we were at the athlete meeting and they said they didn't want us to do the 45-second T-walk. They wanted us...
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I just spent months on a whole routine that's exactly timed out, and now I have to cut some stuff out. So I had to do that because I think it might have been a bigger show or something.
Yeah, you had like some 30 competitors, right? And just in wellness. So yeah, 45 seconds for 30 competitors adds up.
Okay, I think this is a really good question. This says, hi, Jillian Kendall. I'm 25 years old from Australia. Ooh. And I will have my IFBB bikini debut in 2026. Dang, y'all are sick.
So many pros.
I came across your podcast on YouTube recently and cannot stop watching them. It's so refreshing to see 2 down-to-earth women who use their platform to empower other women, as well as bring light to bodybuilding. Since I started with my journey in bodybuilding, as much as I love it, I found myself very isolated. I live a very busy life as a nurse. I'm currently studying and training 5 days a week. I live alone and far from friends and family. Because of my lifestyle, I find it hard to relate to most people and haven't made any close friends in my industry. My closest friends are amazing, but they don't comment on or get involved with my journey, even though it's a big part of my life now. I feel like it would make all the difference to my mental health to have a friend who also competes, someone I can train with and talk to about our experiences. Someone in the same boat, if that makes sense. I was wondering what your advice would be for making friends in the gym or within the bodybuilding community. You girls are amazing. Thank you for taking time to read this.
No.
We love you. We're sorry you feel alone.
I felt this way.
Your friend.
I relate to this so much because I think I felt this way like my first 3 shows ever. I did completely like on my own. I had a supportive family, which was nice. I had like some friends who were not in the industry, kind of the same boat as her, where they just like wouldn't comment or like really know what I was doing, but they would support me, which is nice. It does make a huge difference having someone that fully understands it. Like even you, I came in before we started filming and I was like, hey, what do you do for your coffee and prep? Like those little questions.
And I was like,
those little questions that like if you don't have a circle or someone to ask or someone to talk to, it does make it really hard. So I would say there's a few ways to go about it. I'm a huge fan of social media friends. You don't always need a friend living like across the street or even in the same town. Like when I was I think 17 or 18, like new to competing, new to this world, I just like would kind of scour the social media webs and like go to different show pages and like different competitor pages and find just like other girls around my age in similar positions, maybe new to competing or like just somewhere in the realm of bodybuilding. And I would just follow them. And then I would like start commenting because they looked really good and I wanted to support them. And that support ended up going both ways. And then we would start like DMing and being like, what show are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this one. How are you feeling? Like just creating conversations on social media can go a very far way. And then as far as like in-person friends, there's a few ways. Like I love the concept of having a local coach because it allows you to also have local competitors and get to meet those people. That's kind of how our friendship like really started, is we were both being coached by Zach. We started working out once a week together, like a group wellness leg day workout. And through that, I met other competitors, whether they were in their off season or in prep, that I could go to and questions I had, and they would push me and I would push them. And so that was a great route. And if not, just like talking to the gym girlies in general, because there is something great about having like work friends, but also really great having gym friends that you can like check in on or ask things to that would support you.
Yeah, because they get it versus like the people that you work with, they don't get it. Like they don't, and I understand why they might not be asking you about it because they have no knowledge versus like if it were me or Kendall where we know exactly what you're doing and be like, oh, how are you feeling? Like, how many weeks out are you? What is your meal plan? Like how much cardio you're doing? Cause we have been there and we get it. So honestly, they probably don't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah. That too, like you could always just take time to like educate your friends. Like if you do have a really close friend and she's like supportive of you but has never really like asked deeper or like knows how to show up for you in your prep, it doesn't hurt to be like, hey, like this is this whole thing I do and I'm really in love with it. I would love to like teach you some of the stuff. And if she's willing to learn, then like you can have more conversations about it.
And this is something that happens too, where you'll start to see that your friends that aren't necessarily like, let's say gym girlies or whatever, they're going to start to be interested because they're going to see the mental shift, the physical shift, like your energy levels and just how disciplined and routine you're being. And they're going to want to know, how can I do that too? Because you're going to be radiating this like confidence, which happens during prep, and they're going to be interested. Like that's what happened with me when I was working at a salon. They didn't know what I was doing. They didn't know what questions to ask, but eventually they were like, okay, what are you doing? And I want to be a part of that. So yes. And if you can, find some bodybuilding gyms. Like if you're going,
that makes a huge difference.
It does. Like it's, if you're going to like a Gold's Gym or basically what are those gyms called? Corporate gym. If you're going to like a corporate gym, try to find one that's maybe more mom and pop, you can find more bodybuilders that are there. That's what I did. I was going to like an LA Fitness at first and like a Gold's Gym. And that was just general, nothing wrong with that. General population was going there. But once I switched to a gym where there was power lifters, there was bodybuilders, I started meeting more people that were like me.
Yeah. No, that's such a good tip because that's how I've met like all of my bodybuilding friends now is just by like being around them. Going to shows too, like just being in those environments. Like I know you sound very, very busy, but it does help being in the community of it all. And then like, I know there's random pages like Austin has like Austin Fitness Community, like finding different social media outlets and like see where other people are training too. Like that might help you find, maybe if you don't know if there's a local bodybuilding gym, that can help you find one.
That's very true. Yeah. Very true. I feel like I've met or can pinpoint a specific friend that I have to almost every gym that we have in Austin. You know what I mean?
Me too.
I'm like, oh, I met her there.
And when I see one of them at a different one, I'm like, what are you doing here?
You're right. It's like, I feel like, no shade to the Midwest, but it's like, what are you doing here, Janet? You
never come to
this gym. What are you doing on our side of the street?
That's funny.
Did I just read one? Was that me that read
I
it?
think so.
Okay.
Okay, the next one says, "Hi ladies, I hope you're both having a great week."
I'm having the best fucking week ever.
I'm so happy for you. I wanted to check in and ask for your insight on something for the podcast. Since my bodybuilding competition last April, I've completely lost interest in lifting weights. I feel like I pushed both my body and my mind to their limits, and now weights just don't resonate with me the same way anymore. These, the movement you're doing. These days, I mostly stop.
Sorry. This is why you hate reading things, because I always ruin it.
Oh no, I'm locked in, and out of the corner, I just see.
I'm over here like, yes, queen. Yes,
queen.
I feel you.
These days, I mostly focus on power walking, hiking, and some cycling. I'd love any advice or inspiration on how to find a new approach to fitness. I've struggled with a skewed view of exercise due to my past with anorexia and bulimia, and while I'm now at a healthy weight, I'm still really anxious about gaining more. Ultimately, I want to find a way to enjoy exercise again and have fun with it. Any thoughts on how I can get there? Looking forward to hearing from you both.
So the reason that I was so passionate about this is because this is so normal.
Oh, yeah.
It is so normal. I just want you to know that first of all, it's normal. Kendall and I have both gone through this, because let's break it down logically. You just spent, let's call it 6 months or 5 months being basically the gym, dieting, cardio has been a second job.
Yeah, you live at the gym at
you
a
live
certain
there
point.
where you you're required to do these things in order to step on stage, in order to have the best physique possible. So there is going to be a level of kind of being sick of it at that point, where you just went 0 to 100 with a thing, and afterwards it's going to be like, oh,
Now what?
okay, now I don't have to do all of these things anymore. And a little bit of lack of motivation comes with that. Like, I've experienced this a little bit almost every show that I have done.
Yeah.
And it's something that ends up coming back with time. But I love that she said that she's doing other ways to move her body. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really good route to go
Yeah.
with this, because you kind of do get sick of weights and sick of the same routine because you've been doing it for a while.
That's kind of like I view it as an identity crisis, because
Yes.
you're like, if not bodybuilder, what am I? And I feel like I've definitely done that route where like there was a phase in there after my last show where I was like, I'm going to train like an athlete. And I started doing box jumps and burpees. And then I was like, who am I right now?
It lasted like less than a week.
Yeah, probably. So I feel like it's okay to go through phases and try different stuff, and anything that's getting your body moving is still like you're still on a right track. And even I know some competitors have spoken on, especially at the Olympia level, taking like several weeks off from lifting entirely and gym entirely after their show, and then they get back into it, because sometimes you need to step away in order to give your brain that space to get excited for it again. Exactly. And just trying different training styles. Like I usually post show, I mean, you're starting to get strong again, you're starting to fuel your body again. Like try out some powerlifting type of structure, or try out just like different types of training to re-excite yourself.
Exactly. And you know what is crazy too? Because I was like, as preparing for last week's episode, I was peeping Francielle's page, and I was like, I want to see what she's doing. I want to see. And I was reading through her posts, and she's been taking like a couple of weeks off of training for her mental and her physical health after competing. And I think that's one of the first times that I've actually seen a competitor, at least in a while, at that level, say that that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And if you listener watched my prep series, my coach, I took a week off everything after. He's like, no cardio, no training, because it is a lot. And I feel like the route that you're going about it right now, that's okay. It's just that in your mind right now, you were seeing, oh, this is where I was, and this is all the things that I am doing, and now I just don't want to do anything. What's wrong with me?
Yeah,
no, it's
nothing's wrong with you.
This is all completely normal.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a thing to where you start adding it in like here and there, the weightlifting back into it.
Like, just go do your favorite movements or favorite machines. Like, you don't have to
Yes.
do the exact routine you were just doing. Another thing I love doing that would re-excite me is making like a whole new training split for myself, especially like if you take your judges' feedback or like even honestly, even if you don't and you're just like, I want to grow my glutes, like whatever that looks like, focusing on those movements that you do enjoy doing and maybe like skip the hack squat because you hate the hack squat or whatever that is for you.
I have those, I call them like my confidence workouts, where if I'm going into the gym and I'm feeling a little bit like this listener is feeling, I scrap the program that I've been on and I only go and do workouts that make me feel confident. The machines that I feel confident. So I do like, I'll load up that squat machine that I love.
Yeah.
I'll do the leg extensions because I love doing them, but they're not on my program. I'll do my favorite kickback superset, even though I did it, yesterday and I shouldn't really, and at that point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because your mental health and getting back to feeling like yourself rather than following your program to a T.
Yeah.
So confidence, do your confidence workout.
I love that actually.
And I go in, I'm like, I did that Saturday and I just did all my favorite things and it was the
do that
best.
pretty
and I
often.
crushed it. Like I did a really good workout because of it and didn't force myself to follow my program exactly the same.
Yeah. It's going to be okay if you do a leg extension once
You
in a
got
while.
this, girl. You'll come back. Keep us posted. You'll come back and you'll find that spark again.
Oh, and then when you do, it's like way stronger than before. That was what I was saying too in my like starting prep vlog. I spoke on that. I was like, I have such a good relationship with the gym right now, and it did take a while to get that because there are like ebbs and flows where sometimes you're like, this is kind of a chore again, which is weird because I love this place. And then you get in your head about it. But just like finding movements you really love helps a lot, where like every workout is like my favorite movements for that muscle group.
Yes.
So I get excited and I get excited to like hit PRs and like, but it takes a while sometimes to get back to that stage.
And that's okay. It'll come back. Okay, this next one. Oh, sorry, I move my mic. Hey girls, I hope you're both well. I love your podcast. I haven't missed an episode in over a year. Dang, girl. That's amazing. And when I started, I didn't even know what bodybuilding really was. And now I'm prepping for my first bikini competition this summer.
Congrats.
I'm in the UK, by the way. I took your advice and got a coach. Well in advance. Started in July. We went into a diet phase and I lost 6 kg. But also lost my period within that. Then in October, we started a 4-month building phase. Not long, I know, but I had been in a surplus and a building phase for most of 2023. In this time, my calories have come back above 3,000 per day, minimal cardio, 3 times, 30 minutes a week, but my period didn't come back. We're aiming to compete in June, which means starting prep this week. But my period still hasn't returned. Is this a bad idea? My coach knows, but other than delaying prep until next year, which I really don't want to do, is there anything I can do? Or should I just hope that it still might come back before losing it again? I am just worried that by the time I am competing and then reversing afterwards, it could be a whole year with no cycle. I know you're not medical professionals to give this advice, thank you, but as girlies who have went through this in bodybuilding, I thought you might have some good knowledge on the subject. Thanks for your help. Can't wait to keep watching you on the Stairmaster. Lots of love. Kisses, kisses, kisses. Wow. Okay, let's break this down. Yeah, this should not be taken lightly.
Yeah. Well, okay,
I wanna really know.
my initial thought is I think this girl's metabolism is nutso in like a great way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The fact that you're able to eat above 3,000 per day, most people can't do that, period, let alone in like a slight surplus and still like feeling good every day and in a building phase. So my brain goes, I would like wish I could see her because my guess is that she is more of an ectomorph. And so she needs that much calories and even that might not be enough.
Dang.
Do you feel the same way?
I was thinking what the thing that really stood out to me was we went into a diet phase and I lost 6 kg, but also lost my period within, hold on. I need to know what 6 kg is. I'm sorry.
I think it's around 12 pounds.
Oh.
If that helps. I could be wrong. 13.
Okay.
13 pounds.
See, I was thinking, okay, my question is, how intense did that diet get?
True.
For how long was she in a deficit? And then my other question was, how many pounds did she lose? Because that could be why it hasn't come back yet.
Okay, she started with her coach in July, and in October she went into a building phase. I feel like I'm dissecting this, but that's 4 months of a cut. 13 pounds.
Yeah, this shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
There should be something. Only 4 months?
Unless,
4 months.
and I feel like I need to tread lightly here.
Yes.
If you're underweight is a potential.
That's true. That is a potential.
And I know body dysmorphia and like going into a short building phase and like there's a lot of factors within that. But maybe you are still potentially, we don't know her height and weight and stuff. We just know how much she lost. You might just not be at a healthy body fat for yourself for it to come back.
Yeah.
That is one of my first thoughts.
Yeah.
Again, back to the whole, you might be an ectomorph. You might need to eat a lot more than the normal person. And I'm not saying you're like under eating, which is leading to being underweight. But if you are naturally just like underweight and then pushing yourself into a cut, that would cause that loss. And then it would be really hard to get it back. Again, I'm not a medical professional, so this is a guess.
Okay. Yeah. That is a really good point. Cause now I'm looking at it in the lens of, okay, if she did first start getting into bodybuilding, then maybe she was a little smaller and trying to build into the bikini division.
Yeah.
And could she have potentially gone on too extreme of a cut in that 4 months? We don't know, because it can do a lot of damage. You see a lot of bodybuilders who experience this same thing, like Kendall and I both have.
Yeah.
And I feel like where the coach might be slipping up a little bit is not being as serious about this as like if it were my coach, he would say, okay, we need to make sure that we get it back first. Yeah. Before we even consider going on prep for a show again. What do you think?
I agree. And I had a client.
Because then what would happen afterwards? Imagine if I started my prep and I can potentially go for 6 months. That would, whoa.
Then it might be up to like a year or two.
That would be 6 months without
nothing.
My period versus like sometimes I lose it that last month, you know?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
It's hard to, and again, we're not medical professionals.
Yes.
So I would say my biggest tip is like whether your coach is telling you to or not, I would go talk to like an OBGYN. I would maybe get your blood tested, see what your hormone levels are at, just like create that conversation, because it is important to bring everything at least to baseline before cutting again.
Exactly.
Because if cutting had this effect the first time, cutting again before resolving this issue could lead to you said it yourself. I don't want it to take over a year to get my period back. That might be the case if you cut right now. Yeah.
And it might make it doubly harder because we're talking about it's already gone, plus adding more months on top of that. It could potentially get worse. And we wouldn't want that to happen to you. So I feel like this is a coach conversation. And honestly, I recommend this to anybody. Obviously, again, we're not doctors, but getting blood work done before you start a prep, just to make sure. You know, you could think and feel like you are at your healthiest, but you never, ever know. Like I talked about this on the podcast with you guys, where I got my blood work done recently, and it gave me and coach the green light to say, oh, we're good. You're healthy. So let's then start game planning. I got my period back. We got my calories up really high. Check. Blood work came back good. Check. Perfect. Now we can game plan a cut. Versus not knowing any of those things and then potentially having a more challenging off season next time around, and then being like, oh no, what did I do? So we don't want to scare you or anything. We just want to be your bodybuilding older sisters. So maybe ask your coach about potentially getting blood work and what markers you would need to look at. Yeah. And getting your period back first.
I was going to say, like,
cutting.
She had said too, like, I don't want to wait to cut. Like, this was my plan.
I know.
And it's one of those things, like, you can't just like sit there and hope and pray that it's going to come back the next day. Like, getting blood work done would at least point to like, oh, you're actually deficient in this. And that's what like might need to come back up before your period starts again. That way you could actively work on or take certain supplements to support getting back to a good baseline, because hormones are severely affected, especially, I don't think you said how old you are, but depending on age and being a woman and being new to training this heavily, like hormones are heavily affected and constantly changing and flowing. So it's good to understand like what you might be really low in or really high in, and how to bring it to a normal, healthy level before starting prep, versus if you just like sweep it under the rug, like you're saying, it might create more issues down the road.
Exactly. Just think about, I know that you have your heart set on this, but one thing a lot of bodybuilders don't do is they only think about what they want now. They don't think about the repercussions later.
Yep.
So think about that future version of you and her, and how much you want to set her up for the best, healthiest version that she can be, because ultimately you need that in order to be your best self, like on stage. So
yeah,
I know we couldn't really give you that much.
Sorry, yeah.
But we went down a couple different avenues based off what you were
I think
talking
overall
about.
talking to professionals or getting your coach on board and realizing how serious it is. I wonder if her coach is a man also, because some men don't know or tread lightly around the topic of periods.
That's true. That's so true.
You've gotten lucky with
my coach
your
knows
male coach.
more about my period than I do. He goes, I need you to get your blood work done in your luteal phase of your, and I said, what is that? No, I'm just kidding. I knew the terms and everything. I said, when is that though? Like I need the
How
date.
do I figure out?
the dates. And then he went based off of like my last period, because I do check-ins, and he goes, I need you to get it between the 19th and the 22nd. And I was like, on it.
That's actually like kind of cool. Love to see
Yes,
it.
because in certain phases of our menstrual cycle, it's better to get blood work done because it'll be more accurate and there won't be spikes in anything. So that's why we did it that way. But yeah, things that need to have check boxes before starting a prep ideally would include your calories are at a really solid, pretty high number where you're
She's got
maintaining.
that,
check.
yeah.
You have your period, your hormonal health is good, check. Mental health is good, check.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to add, like, it's not the period itself. It's your hormones working and functioning properly.
Yes.
Like, for those who maybe don't compete or haven't lost their period, we're not being like, you need to bleed.
Yes.
in order to do a prep.
It's a sign of a healthy woman.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
a sign of a healthy woman. So when it goes away, it is a clear sign that
It's a red flag, basically.
yes, for us, knowing that, oh, something's going on.
I've also, like, typically I don't lose mine until I'm at like the last month of prep. Like, usually I have it at least for the first like several weeks prepping. So that too, like, it does just pose the question of like maybe doing a longer prep, maybe taking it more slow. Maybe you went a little too aggressive in this like mock cut you did, because that could be leading to this issue.
True.
So
True.
a lot of things to consider.
Great questions, guys. I love them.
We're answering more in 2 days. So
Yes, we have more really, really, really good ones, and a lot of things that people were asking, that some of them were even like multiples of the same thing. So keep an eye out for that. But as always, y'all, we love you all so much. You're more powerful than you think.
Bye.